Therefore, not like so if a
Ladies and gentlemen, it would seem that our team lead Machalo is not available, so I'll call upon Jedida. Jedida, please give us the welcoming remarks, if you will. Jedida, thanks.
Afternoon, everyone. I hope you are able to hear me. So welcome to this session. Our intention is for this session to keep to time, so I'll keep my remarks quite short. So just to remind everybody to, as you join, ensure that your mics are muted and that your cameras are off, just to avoid distractions as others are listening into what's going on in the session. Let's remember to use the chat. I can see already there are 14 messages in the chat, so we're doing quite well in that regard. To use the chat for any questions and any feedback you may have. The overall objectives for this particular session is to understand why the new build or the new release in some cases. So we have a new version of SmartCare out in the facilities, version 1.66. So part of the reason we're here is to understand why it's necessary to have that. We also want you participants to appreciate the changes and enhancements to the system, as well as to recap the procedures for escalating any feedback you may have with regards to the system. So once again, welcome to this session and thank you for joining. As Mr. Chizo said, we are monitoring those who attend these sessions, and there's a point system attached to it. So basically, when you join these sessions, you are making points and we are observing and monitoring that. In the chat is there a link to the attendance register. It's an online form. It's the only way for us to verify that you're actually on this session, and that's what we use to monitor. So once again, welcome, and I hope we find this session helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chizo, and over.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jedida, for those brief remarks. We shall jump right in to our presentation this afternoon. So the first thing that we're going to do is to describe this particular version of version 1.66. So what it is a significant upgrade, and I would like us to differentiate this from a high impact upgrade, because this is we are still in version 1.6. So this is just a slight deviation from the version 1.6. So if it were a major impact upgrade, we would have seen a change in the first digit there. It would have jumped to version 1.7. So what we are going to see is not many major changes. We will just see a few changes that we will try to highlight this afternoon. The next question that we're going to ask is, why do we even bother with the upgrade? So the first reason is that we are mandated to periodically produce an upgrade. We are mandated to do so at least twice a year. And there are things that we do promise along the way that, no, this will come in the next upgrade and so on. So we found it necessary in that regard to come up with this upgrade. The second reason is that there were incidents that were reported in the service desk. This one is not happy about that. That the other one is not happy about the other thing. And this one would like this introduced, the other would like this removed. So all of these things were reported in the help desk, and as they pile up, we put them together and come up with a new upgrade to address those issues. So that is the major reason why we came up with this upgrade. What has changed? First, we've enhanced the reports, as Paul will take us through. Two, we have improved the graphical user interface in that some of the things have changed. We've added a button here, we've changed what this does, and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, these are the two things that have changed. The third thing is the incident resolution, the service desk tickets pertaining to reports. So in the resolution of those and the enhancement of the navigation incidents that were reported in the service desk also has contributed to the coming up of this particular version of SmartCare. So jump right into the details of the modular enhancements. The first one is that we've introduced the ART number search. If you remember, most of you will remember that this was not working in the past. So now you can search for a client using the ART number, which is a lifelong number which we give to our clients. The second is that people were asking for a third option in the ANC module, the EMTCT. There is test refused and test not applicable, but people were saying, why don't we include the test not accepted? So that has been addressed in that when someone does the actual test, the test accepted auto-populates itself on there. So that has been addressed as well. In binding, we have also introduced a system where you will notice that we are not going to demonstrate due to our time constraint. We hope that you are going to go through the system on your own time and look at these changes. If need be, we'll share this presentation with you so that you can check these things step by step. I was saying the binding, if you bind two people, the relations, say someone's husband, will appear there and it will show their HIV status and if they are enrolled on ART. This was not happening in the past. This is an enhancement that has been done. The disability status in ART, this has been added so that we can improve the service delivery to those people who are differently abled. Okay. In the patient locator, the phone numbers of the contacts, the next of kin, the treatment supporters, their numbers will be appearing in the patient locator. This is a new feature as well. The PrEP services, the PrEP services will now begin to recognize the negative test recognition. So it will be pulling negative results from HTS, from PMTCT, and from all the testing points so that the PrEP can be activated and people can receive these services from the facilities. The PrEP services also, we have included some quick pick prescriptions. There are those common PrEP drugs where you can quickly pick. The recently seen clients was not working previously. Now, if you test it, you'll find that it is working. In the service queues, there is a search box where you can search for someone, you can search using their name, you can search using their reason for visit. This is a little known fact that you can search for the service queues using reason for visit. This is also a new feature. In the TB module, only one diagnosis method was being recognized, and now all of the methods of diagnosis, be it the X-ray, be it even the clinical diagnosis, are being recognized, and you can start someone on TB in SmartCare, even if you don't do Gene Expert. Previously, only Gene Expert was recognized as a diagnosis method, but now you can even use all those methods, which you as clinicians know even better than I do myself. Under 5, immunizations. If you immunize someone on their first visit, when they come on a second visit, those immunizations were not being pulled from the first visit. But now, if the child comes for subsequent visit, you can see their immunization from the previous visits, and those same immunizations, if they are done already, will be graded out in the subsequent visits, which is going to greatly enhance our service provision in this particular area of under 5. Stable-on care. There were complaints that stable-on care is not saving. This was a bug which has since been fixed in this version 1.6.6. Lastly, non-communicable diseases module has been added, but this will only apply to 14 facilities in Lusaka, Chilenje, George, Makeni, Chawama, Tanyama, Chipata, Baulen, Railway, Ngombe, Kamwala, Kabwata, Chelston, Mtendere, and Kalingalinga. So this has been taken as a pilot. You will not see it in other facilities. So we are going to engage these 14 facilities in a deep dive of this particular enhancement, because it is still being piloted, and I will not go into it in this forum. That is all for the modular enhancements. If there are any questions in the modular enhancements, please hold on until the end as we allow Mr. Poho to go ahead with the enhancements that have been done in the reporting. Paul?
All right, thank you very much, Ed. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kawina Paul Poho. I'm the monitoring and evaluation specialist with IHM. And just to quickly walk you through the reporting enhancements that have been made. So these, of course, for them to be included into the upgrader, were subjected to an internal usability acceptance testing, as well as an external usability acceptance testing, which included a number of implementing partners that took part in this exercise. So the ones that were validated and iterate action were made to any changes that were required were thus included in this upgrade. So to begin with, I'll walk you through with ART register. This is one where we had quite a number of incidents that were reported with regards to the accuracy of some columns, while some columns weren't populating. So in relation to dates, we had columns such as the ART start date, the next pharmacy date, and the next viral load appointment date that were not populating. So these were then worked on with this current upgrader. You will be able to note that these columns are populating, but also are populating accurate numbers there. The same applies to the pregnant and breastfeeding column, which wasn't populating previously. With this current upgrader that has been resolved, and that column is populating accurately. the patients with the status, so the patient status columns, which on the ART register are the columns at the far end. These are now populating, but are also populating accurate patient statuses for respective clients. And this is in relation then with the status migrated from legacy. There was a number of incidents that were recorded where the patient status of clients that were in legacy and migrated to Plus, that their patient status was being changed. This has been resolved. So the same client status that the client was having when they were in legacy would be the same status that will appear when data is migrated into SmartCare Plus as well. We move to the next slide. All right. Yeah. So still on the ART register, with regards to the regimen, so all drugs now appear when dismissed. So we had an issue where clients that were dispensed with DTG weren't being picked on the ART register. That's no longer the case now, as clients that are on DTG, clients that are on ABC regimen are now appearing, and in that regard, appearing on the TXCAR as well. In respect to the columns populating accurate data, the TPT regimen column is equally populating accurate data now. So that should be all with regards to the ART register. Then moving forward to the HIA2, this was a very predominant issue in the help desk where we had a number of incidents reported. And the major issue was that the report was unable to run as it was producing a white label error. So we've worked on this. The HIA2 now is able to run. And with this, therefore, we know that the clinical implications would be that facilities will now be able to run the aggregate reports that are required for monthly reports through the HIA2 data. Further moving to the appointment pending list, we had an issue where this report wasn't running, was producing a white label error, just like the HIA2. So this has been worked on, and now the appointment pending list is able to be produced at facility level. The clinical implication of this, obviously, we know that it's going to improve patient-centered monitoring in relation to picking up of drugs for respective clients. We can move to the next slide. So in relation to the appointments still, we have worked on the appointments for today report as well. So the appointment list is populating all clients that are on ART, including option B clients. This was resolved because previously there was an issue of the list not including clients that are on option B. Nevertheless, this has been worked on and it's now producing data that is required conclusively. So it includes columns for due clinical visits, the due for pharmacy, due for viral load, as well as due for follow-up. That's TPT for TPT 3 years. Okay, move to the next slide. All right. The other report that was key and is key that we have worked on is the COVAX register. This is where we're looking at, especially for facilities that were migrated from legacy to SmartCare Plus. So the incidents previously was that facilities were unable to draw data for clients that COVAX data from clients that were in legacy. Now, when you transition to Plus, so the resolution that has been applied is that data has to be uploaded from the facilities. So data has to be uploaded into the central instance, and thereafter, facilities will now be able to do a downward sync directly from the central instance. So I would like to highlight on this one that data can only be accessed if it has been uploaded into the central instance. So we'll be working closely with facilities. Our IHM team will be working closely with facilities to ensure that the databases are hereby collected from the facilities and uploaded into the central instance. Only then will facilities be able to do a downward sync and access COVAX data that was input in SmartCare Legacy to be accessible in SmartCare Plus. We can move to the next slide. Okay, so focusing on the PEPFAR MER now, the TXCAR calculation has been harmonized across the T reports. So you would expect that you'll be seeing the same values that you would obtain from the PEPFAR MER in relation to the TXCAR will be the same value that, of course, you're going to see in the ART register, in the QAQI, as well as the HIA2. There have been a couple of incidents previously that were indicating the differences in the TXCAR obtained from the various reports. This would no longer be the case as this has been harmonized. Then clients with dispensations conducted in the antenatal and postnatal modules have been added on TXCAR calculation. So previously, was a mishap where clients that had dispensations from the antenatal care as well as the postnatal care modules weren't being picked on the TXCAR. We've harmonized the logic for TXCAR, and in this case, all the clients that have their dispensations made from the ANC and PNC modules are being picked on TXCAR. Move. Okay. Just to highlight further on the TXCAR, maybe we could just bring it back to the previous slide. There will be an expected drop with the TXCAR because we have stringent data quality measures, ensure that we are capturing data correctly. So for instance, a basic check with regards to clients that are supposed to be picked on TXCAR is that a client is supposed to have an HIV positive test. And when a client then in their patient record isn't having a positive HIV test result, there would be missed on the TXCAR because that's the first validation check that is supposed to be done. That for a client to be picked on TXCAR, they need to have a positive HIV test result. Now, what we observed during the external usability acceptance testing is that there are some clients, in as much as they are actively on treatment, they do not have an HIV positive test result within their patient record, their patient file. And due to that, they stand very higher chances of them being missed from being picked on the TXCAR. Therefore, with that, there is a requirement that facility level data cleanup exercises are conducted to just ensure that clients that are missing a key result, such as the HIV test result, need to be updated. That's number one. Secondly, another aspect that will contribute to a drop in the TXCAR is that ART clients who had their previous patient status of, let's say, is being made inactive with regards to the patient status. They were made inactive in either legacy or plus systems and have not had their patient status reactivated. Those ones would be missed on the TXCAR. So these will be dropped on the TXCAR, even if they have subsequent ART interaction or dispensation without the patient is being reactivated patient status. So we discovered there are some clients, their patient status appears that they were made inactive. And when they returned to treatment, they have recent ART dispensations. However, that particular patient status was never updated. It still remains as made inactive. These clients would be dropped from the TXCAR. The moment that their patient status is updated from made not inactive to them being active clients, then they will be picked on the TXCAR. We tested this during the field testing, and we were able to witness this. Therefore,
any drops that would be experienced in terms of the TX car needs to be investigated. And if at all you identify that these clients are actually having a status which is indicating that they are made inactive and yet they are active clients, all that needs to be done is reactivating these clients, and then you'll be able to see them on the TX car. The third condition that would contribute to a TX car drop that is expected is that there were some OPD clients who were previously being picked and appearing on the TX car. With the tightening up and strengthening of the TX car logic within the system, there are no OPD clients that are being picked. With this being the case, then it is expected that those facilities that were having a situation where OPD clients that were subsequently being picked on TX car would be removed. And that being the case, it is only inevitable that the drop is experienced. So the drops that will be experienced are genuine drops and they shouldn't be alarming. Nevertheless, we implore facilities to conduct investigations with regards to those drops and just determine if at all these drops are genuine drops. But overall and above, we have done the investigations and we expect all the drops that may be experienced to be genuine drops. Should there be any anomaly, our health informatics team, we're on hand to just interact with the facility and ensure that we conduct that investigation. So in a nutshell, with this upgrade, the TX card drop is going to be expected. However, this drop shouldn't be alarming. I know many times partners do get alarmed when they see a drop in the TX card, but this one shouldn't be alarming as the drop is a genuine drop, which is earmarked to ensure that there is improved data quality with the data that we are obtaining. Thank you and over.
Thank you very much, Paul, for that very enlightening presentation that you have. You will notice that we are doing this very quickly because there have been a lot of concerns and you will be expecting a lot of questions from Matthias Simwenga, for example, and John Zimba of Lundazi. But before we do that, in Jedaida's opening remarks, she did highlight that we would do a recap of how we're supposed to handle incidents, complaints, bug reports, and so on. So what is supposed to happen is that we have champions in all of the facilities. So if a user encounters a problem, the first port of call should be the champions at the facility. Now, as a champion at the facility, if you receive a report that something is not working properly or someone doesn't know how to do something, they are not doing it properly. As a champion first, we would expect you to know how to do the right thing. But then there will be cases where you don't. Perhaps you've forgotten, being human, perhaps it is something just complicated which you cannot wrap your head around. The first thing that you do is informally, you can consult your friends. And there is also this peer-to-peer consultation that we do in the National SmartCare group. That is a very good way of resolving things, especially things that require some navigation or something that we have forgotten or something that your friends have encountered before and they found a workaround. But the official way of reporting these things is through the service desk. The service desk has got no upper limit of the number of incidents that it can take. We always encourage people to use the service desk for two reasons. One, that incident becomes official. It is given a number which can be referred to years and years hence, that there was this incident number, such. And that incident will be given immortality. Second, that incident will have visibility, because at the end of each week, the IHM team, together with the CDCC team, sit down and review all the unresolved cases of the week. They put them down and say, here are the unresolved cases. The reasons why they are unresolved are such and such and such, and which is the best way forward that we can take. And some of those unresolved incidents are the ones that give rise to new versions of SmartCare, such as this one. They prompt us to make new enhancements. Mute the mic. Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes our mics take on a life of their own. So I was saying that these incidents help us to improve the system. So we need these incidents to be reported. And shouting about them in the group will not help. It does help, yes, when someone has encountered it before and they have a solution. But the best thing that we can do for us and for ourselves is to report those incidents in the service desk. It was just a rehash. This is something that we've talked about again and again and again. So I will not further to it, but it was one of the objectives of this meeting. So it had to be gotten out of the way. So having said that, we can now take questions. If there are any questions, please raise your hand and we can take your. Mr. John Mwale from Lundazi, please go ahead. John Mwale from Lundazi, please go ahead. John seems to have stepped away from his microphone. And please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon. We can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. Mine is, I think I have 3 things on my fingertips here. The first one, right now I'm on SmartCare, and I'm trying to run the late list, but it only gives me the, we're supposed to have 2 dates, the first and the end date, but this time around I can't run, for example, May to date. It is just giving me the first May, and I don't have the next date. That's the first thing. Then the second one is, yes, we are trying by all means to make sure that adding those HTS things in our patients' files, but the client, where even after doing all those, I couldn't even access anything, like accessing the files for my client. So the only thing that I resorted to do, because that client was dropped, it was just to get the hard copy file and to start to backdate all the information up to date, including the VO, everything. because I tried all what I could. Then the other thing is, I don't know if it has been considered. Some of us where we are here, it's on the border, where when during registration, you'll find that there are provinces where someone was born from. So if the province thing there was an option where you type where someone was born from, because here we are dealing with clients who are coming from Malawi, for example. So you'll find that someone was born from Malawi, then you're just forced to put everything in the Eastern. But this client is a foreigner. So I don't know if that can also be worked on. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you very much, Kayenda. Kuani, are you on the call? Did you manage to finally join us, Kuani? Kuani was feeling unwell, so he promised that he would try and join us today, but it would seem that he has not managed at all. So we will take the second batch of questions. Mr. Mwale from Lundazi, please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Chizo. I think just to close the loop on the first set of questions, I think it's to just remind colleagues that the service desk is readily accessible by facility staff. And all of us, I would like to believe, belong to provincial WhatsApp groups where there are trainers who are there in instances where people don't know how to access the service desk, but it has provisions for you to actually upload screenshots from the system. So in a case where you don't have an end date in a particular report, ABCD, you're able to reach that level of detail when you report an issue. So let's not wait for monthly meetings like this one to ask our specific questions. Let's ensure that we utilize the service desk. I think Mr. Chizu has delivered the point. And the toll-free number to call for the service desk is 8080. So in case some of the things that we are discussing here are not dealt with there, please, let's utilize the service desk so that we can give you dedicated attention. Thanks, and over, Mr. Chizu.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. John Zimba, you are being shy. Please unmute your mic and speak up. Mr. John Mwale, sorry, I called you Zimba. Sorry. Mr. Mwale, okay. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. The first thing is I would like to commend the team for the good job that they've done in the new batch or 1.66 version in terms of harmonizing numbers on the MERA, that is TXCAR, and on all the reports. However, there's some gaps and challenges that I have personally noted in the system, which maybe I need clarity and clarification. First thing is on the patient's locator. Find that legacy is well updated with the patient's locator, well detailed. Say the client stays behind the church, there's a big tree, something like that, even phone numbers. But when we transitioned to SmartCare Plus, we have to start all over again now updating the locator. The locator is blank. So there are those clients that the main example coming later in the day. So we find that no proper details are in the system. Then the other thing that I've noted is MER is pulling lower numbers in QAQI. Can you hear me?
You seem to be breaking, Mr. Mwale, but I think we are getting the drift of what you're trying to say.
Okay.
Don't stop now, please go ahead.
I was saying MER is pulling lower numbers in terms of TX PVLS denominator compared to QAQI. So if those can be harmonized, also on the due for viral load, you find that due for viral load report, the actual report in the system, when you run for a certain period, it will give you the smallest numbers compared to those that are not on the denominator. There is that gap in terms of numbers, which shouldn't be the case. Then I've also noticed the late performance is also pulling plans with patients' status. And then number two, it is also pulling plans with the over 5,000 days. I understand somebody has just explained that in the chat box. He said because of the patient's statuses, which were not in there. So the major concern, my concern is on the TXPBLS denominator. If it can be harmonized, we can really appreciate. Those are the few things that I had. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Chizu, may I respond to the gentleman from Lundazi?
There you are, Kwani. Thanks for joining us. We were beginning to miss you there. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kuwa Ibanda. I am the clinical informatics specialist at IHM. Sorry for joining late. So I would like to respond to some of the concerns raised by the gentleman from Lundazi. The first one be the patient status. Yeah, we apologize for, of course, we apologize for that, and I'll try to break it down. Of course, when we are migrating systems, because remember we're migrating from a SmartCare the legacy system, and then we're migrating into the newer system. They have different programming languages, and they have. So what happens is that, of course, we do have our migration protocols, but as you know, every system, to be honest, is not 100%. So sometimes you may find a few things here and there would lack when it comes to the migration. And one thing we've noted in some facilities, not all facilities, in some facilities is that the patient locator is some of the information is not migrating completely into SmartCare Plus. One of the reasons also due to that as well is that, of course, it's migration. Two, if you have noted, the patient locator has changed quite a bit if you look at it properly from the legacy implementation into the Plus. So you find that in the Plus, it's a bit more harmonized to the registration module. So that's one of the reasons why. But nonetheless, we are working actively on the migration protocols to make them better. And we apologize for some of your records not being migrated, that being the patient locator. But once they are entered into the system now, as they will be there. They will not disappear. And I'm sure you've noted by now that most of the things are coming from the registration. So if we have an updated registration module, you will find that most of the data entry fields will be actually there in patient locator. For the PVLS, of course, Paul can handle it, but I want to speak on, just before Paul comes in, I just want to speak that you may find that something that has really been strengthened in this build is the pregnant and breastfeeding women. As we all know, pregnant and breastfeeding women, that's the ANC, the postnatals, and even those when you're in the ART clinical follow-up, there's that section where it says is declined breastfeeding. Once that is ticked, their viral loads, all the women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, those are targeted viral loads. And I'm sure we all know here what targeted viral loads are. That means their validity is only 3 months. Because I've heard a few people complain about no viral load has reduced and the sort. So that has been strengthened as well. So basically, the validity for a viral load for any woman who's pregnant or breastfeeding is 3 months, not 1 year. This is according to the Zambia Consolidated Guidelines, 2022. So that's coming from Ministry of Health. There's a section, if you read the guidelines, I think that it has been shared in the group. There's a section which specifically states that a woman who is pregnant or is breastfeeding, they should have a new viral load every 3 months. So on PVLS, denom, numerator, its validity is 3 months. Just wanted to highlight that point. Back to you, Mr. Chizu.
Thank you very much, Kuan. So there were some 2 questions that were hanging from the previous question. Who wanted to know why late for pharmacy is having only 1 date now instead of 2. So the answer to that is that if you're going to calculate who is late for pharmacy, you're going to calculate from a point. If you're going to calculate, say, if you want to know who is late for pharmacy, you want to know who is late for pharmacy starting today at this point. So that is why the other date was removed. It was deliberately removed. That is not a mistake. I don't know. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm trying to say, but if you're going to calculate being late for pharmacy, you do not use a time period. You calculate being late from a point. That is all. The other thing was about people born outside of Zambia. There is a tick box when you're doing where someone was born from that says not born in Zambia, and it grays out all the provinces, the district, and so on. So there's that tick box to take care of that. So for the third question, we shall go to Matthias Simwinga. Please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to all the members on call. Like everyone has appreciated, indeed, job order, we are seeing great development and improvements in the operational abilities and capabilities of SmartCare Plus. That said, I wish to register my concern in that you people give a lot of prominence to ART issues at the expense of all the other service points in this SmartCare, which is supposed to be servicing all hospital points. And so SmartCare, when you look at it, probably everyone on this call agree with me that ART services are miles ahead of all the other service points. For instance, I would talk of the TB module. The TB module, I don't know why it's not being given the attention that it also deserves, just like any other service point module. When you look at what you did in this latest release, it's tremendous. Of course, you've enabled SmartCare Plus to save even non-gene expert confirmed TB cases. But that's not enough when you look at the card of issues that were being forwarded to you people. It's also understood that you people are following the algorithm of the more points or problems or the more people report on an issue, the more attention you give to it. I think for me, that's not a very good approach. The best approach should be, this problem has been given to us. Is it a problem? Yes, let's fix it. I think it will help us. Otherwise, if you start looking for numbers, let 10, 20 people complain about this, that's when we'll give it that attention. It will not help us develop the system as quickly as possible. All in all, we are looking bright and we are getting there bit by bit. May we continue working hard, and please consider not looking at how many people report at an issue. If an issue is an issue, it shouldn't wait for other people to also report on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simwenga. Your concern about concentrating on ART is very, very well noted. But I must state with some amount of honesty that usually these things, especially things that involve this level of investment, they usually follow the money. And even in the family of 10 people, it is not always that the resources are shared equally. Some areas will gain more prominence because the people who are paying for the whole program have more interest in those areas, and it is our wish also that we could go in that direction. It is everyone's wish, but sometimes you have to bow down to the wishes of people who are funding the whole system. And in an area of scarce resources, where we cannot do everything at once with an equal level of commitment, financial commitment, that is, you have to find a way of sharing these scarce resources in a way that it might not be pleasing to everyone, but you have to find a middle path. And we're trying the best we can to do so. But your concerns are noted, Mr. Simwenga, and they'll be duly communicated to the powers that be. Thank you very much.
Hi, Chizu. Can I just come in just to update? Is that okay, Chizu? Mr. Chizu?
Go on, please.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Mr. Simwenga, your concerns have been duly noted, and we do not look at SmartCare per se as the ones that complain the most. We'll not go into much details. We do have an upgrader planned the next 2 to 3 months. That will, the first thing that we have communicated to our developers is the entire TB. So the entire TB is we're trying to look at not just right now. We in this build, as you've heard before, we were looking at incidences, but now since the incidences have reduced, we are trying to look at development of non-ART modules. So I'll maybe even preempt. We the next build, we're looking at the strengthened TB, much strengthened, not just diagnosis, but also looking at the continuation phase as well. We are also looking at adding a cervical cancer screening and treatment module as well. We're also trying to strengthen IPD and some OPD as well. So those are the 4 focus areas we're looking at on the clinical side in the next build. Of course, SmartCare is a Kaizen, continuous improvement. So you will be getting improvements. Of course, we cannot do the entire TB in one module. For example, the ART module, for it to be where it is right now, it has taken many updates. And now we're going to deploy the same our kind of methodology when it comes to the things like TB, IPD, OPD, and cervical cancer. So in the next upgrade, you will see there'll be a lot of changes when it comes to TB. We're adding a cervical cancer module as screening and treatment. We're looking at adding some functionality for IPD, which those are the issues that have been added into the help desk. We do note them, and we've already done the requirements for them. So in a nutshell, we are looking at non-ART modules, especially now that we have closed most of the incidences that people had. Then now we're going to look at strengthening the actual module. So please look out for that, sir, and please continue using the system, and we'll definitely be addressing your issues and strengthening the modules as we are going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kwani, for that input. Unfortunately, the time allocated to us has come to an end. So I would ask those who still have burning issues to reach out either in the group or individually to us. You have our contacts. Those who haven't managed to register, please stay on the line. I'll stay for the next 2 minutes to help them out. Otherwise, our time has come to an end. We did try to allocate as much time as possible for questions, but unfortunately, we could not manage to accommodate everyone. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending this meeting. Perhaps we will endeavor to make them longer, request more time from admin to allocate us more time for these meetings. I don't know, we can take a vote in the group whether this is desirable. Thank you very much for attending. Those who haven't managed to register, please stay on the line and let's help each other to do so. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good one, everybody.
Was there a link?
Thank you very much.
Registration link? Was there a registration link?
There was. Check in the chat, you.
Thank you.